Hello everyone. We're absolutely delighted to have you with us for another episode of our insightful video series. Today, we'll dive into an intriguing topic, the silent treatment as employed by a narcissist. It's essential to clarify that this discussion offers a generalized perspective and doesn't aim to define every individual who might identify as a narcissist. Naturally, I can't speak on behalf of all narcissists, and I fully acknowledge that. Now, let's explore the silent treatment phenomenon in depth. For narcissists, the act of withholding communication, commonly known as the silent treatment, serves multiple functions. It's a tool for punishment, an assertion of dominance, and a demonstration of control. Imagine it as a multifaceted sphere, each segment symbolizing a specific intent, to ignore, to diminish, and to assert superiority. This silent treatment isn't like encountering a stone wall you can bypass. It's more like the wall itself, dismissing your existence entirely. That's precisely what it feels like to be on the receiving end of a narcissist's silence. The triggers behind a narcissist's silent treatment usually originate from a perceived slight or wrongdoing. They often believe the individual they're ignoring has acted unfairly or harmfully toward them. These perceived offenses can range from minor misunderstandings to more significant conflicts, anything the narcissist interprets as a threat to their self-image. It's crucial to understand that this perception of being wronged is integral to their thought process. While it might seem irrational to others, to the narcissist, it's a perfectly valid justification for their behavior. In the world of narcissists, the notion of being wronged carries a distinct interpretation. It's not always about an actual transgression or harmful act, it can be as simple as holding them accountable. Imagine trying to point out something they've done. This confrontation alone can be perceived as an offense. Similarly, asking them to take responsibility for their actions, even gently, can be viewed as an attack. This reveals a fascinating and complex facet of the narcissistic mindset, their unique perception of wrongdoing, which often defies conventional understanding but feels entirely justified from their perspective. However, the complexity doesn't end there. When narcissists perceive a wrongdoing, they often choose silence rather than direct confrontation. This silent treatment isn't merely about avoiding conversation, it's layered with meaning. Paradoxically, when they employ the silent treatment, they often do want to engage with the other person. They recognize the need to address the issue, but opt for silence instead. This choice isn't born of apathy. It's a nuanced strategy to resolve the conflict without exposing themselves to shame or discomfort. It's their way of maintaining control while avoiding vulnerability. Narcissists frequently find themselves trapped in a dilemma when faced with situations that might expose their insecurities. They have a strong aversion to vulnerability and shame, leading them to deploy the silent treatment as a protective shield. This tactic resembles an intricate game of hide and seek, not just with others, but also within themselves. On one hand, they crave connection and resolution, but on the other, their need for control and self-preservation prevails, enforcing silence. This internal struggle mirrors a classic parable, a battle between two opposing forces. One side seeks connection, while the other enforces detachment. The intensity of this psychological conflict can almost evoke the imagery of an exorcism, a ritual aimed at expelling negative forces. Yet, setting aside metaphors, it's essential to understand the narcissist's mindset more pragmatically. The narcissistic ego is an overwhelming force, often overshadowing everything else. It's akin to a party where the narcissist is both the host and the guest, while everyone else lingers on the outskirts. In these moments of silence, narcissists remain fully conscious of their actions. They are aware, deliberate, and calculating. They are ignoring you, fully aware that they are giving you the silent treatment. It's not an unconscious oversight but a deliberate choice, a dance where the narcissist leads, and you are left with no option but to follow. Most narcissists consciously recognize their lack of communication, fully aware of their silence. However, a powerful internal force restrains them, a deep-seated fear of vulnerability, exposure, and the sting of shame. Let's explore a hypothetical scenario. Imagine a narcissistic husband and his wife standing at the brink of separation. The husband, driven by narcissistic tendencies, feels an intense urge to talk to his wife before she leaves. He sees her, acknowledges the absurdity of his silence, and realizes that the silent treatment does nothing to resolve their conflict. Yet, instead of acting on his desire to communicate and possibly mend the rift, he chooses to walk away. This internal struggle is intense. One part of him insists that his wife doesn't deserve his words or time, while another part reassures him that he can speak to her upon his return. This dichotomy reflects a common narcissistic trait, a split between their authentic self and the carefully constructed facade they maintain. Here lies the complexity of the narcissistic psyche. They know the issue will linger in their minds, yet they choose avoidance over confrontation. This behavior extends beyond romantic relationships. It manifests with parents, siblings, friends, coworkers, and others within the narcissist's social sphere. Narcissists often use the silent treatment to project an illusion of happiness in the absence of the ignored individual. They might flood social media with pictures and updates, painting a picture of a blissful life without the person they're ignoring. They behave as if their silence symbolizes contentment, as though speaking to the ignored individual would be a waste of breath, energy, and time. This strategy, common among many narcissists, creates confusion. It's hard to fathom how someone can project such joy while deliberately ignoring another. Consider a situation where a narcissist remains silent for 2 months. One might wonder if they're even aware of the prolonged silence. Rest assured, they are fully cognizant of their withdrawal from communication. The duration of the silent treatment holds significance. The longer the silence, the higher the likelihood that the narcissist is engaging with someone else. While this isn't always the case, it's a possibility worth considering. Like everyone, narcissists crave communication. If they're not fulfilling this need with you, they're likely seeking it elsewhere. Particularly revealing is the narcissist's reaction when their silent treatment elicits a strong emotional response. If you cry, plead, or display vulnerability, they might exploit your reaction as a manipulation tool. Silence becomes a punishment, a calculated tactic to provoke and control. This silent treatment can stem from various triggers: holding them accountable, uncovering secrets they wish to conceal, or simply the narcissist emotionally disconnecting from the relationship. When emotional detachment occurs, communication naturally deteriorates, a classic example of narcissistic manipulation. By wielding silence, they create an imbalanced power dynamic, controlling when and how communication occurs. Silence serves as both punishment and assertion of superiority. Ultimately, the silent treatment from a narcissist isn't about ignorance or unawareness, it's a calculated strategy designed to manipulate and dominate. Understanding the nuances of this behavior empowers us to navigate relationships with narcissists more effectively. While they might appear to revel in their silence, it's crucial to recognize the facade. They may seem to find solace in the quiet, but can you do the same? The answer seems straightforward, but the reality is far more complex. After all, communication remains the cornerstone of healthy, adult relationships. When two adults are involved in a relationship, the expectation is for mature interaction and communication. However, when a narcissist chooses silence, it reflects a juvenile response rather than an adult one. This reaction typically follows something you may have done, like holding them accountable for their actions. The silent treatment in this context resembles how a child might react. So, while both of you are adults physically, the mental age gap becomes evident in such moments. You might find yourself dealing with the emotional maturity of an 8 or 9-year-old. In such situations, the first piece of advice is to learn to appreciate the silence. This doesn't mean you stop communicating entirely, essential information should still be conveyed. For instance, if there's an appointment your partner needs to know about, communicate it clearly. An example might be, just to remind you, you have a doctor's appointment scheduled for tomorrow at 3 p.m. Once you've passed along that information, your responsibility ends there. If they choose not to acknowledge it, that's not your fault. They can't hold you accountable for their lack of response. In other words, communicate your part but don't expect reciprocation. Avoid waiting for them to respond or engage in conversation. It's about finding peace within the silence and not allowing the lack of communication to affect you. It's also crucial to clarify that silence from a victim or survivor does not equate to the silent treatment. The intent behind the silence matters. If you're silent out of fear, walking on eggshells around the narcissist due to apprehension about their reaction, it's not the same as giving the silent treatment. This silence stems from fear, not manipulation. To sum up, dealing with a narcissist's silent treatment requires understanding, patience, and a certain degree of detachment. Communicate essential information without anticipating a response, and most importantly, find contentment within the silence. The experience of being avoided and the act of self-protection can often be misunderstood as similar. However, distinguishing between the two is essential. It's easy to mistake someone's silence as a reciprocal reaction, but your silence could simply be a protective shield for your mental well-being. The crux of the matter lies in the intent behind the act. What is the underlying purpose of your silence? In the case of a narcissist, the silent treatment is a strategic maneuver to evade responsibility, shift blame, penalize you, and exercise control. So, ask yourself, is your silence an attempt to manipulate? The intention behind your actions plays a pivotal role, especially when dealing with a narcissist. Choose your battles wisely. I can't stress this enough, you are the master of your fate. You hold the power to shape your destiny. When a narcissist resorts to the silent treatment, it's often a struggle between their two selves. One part indulges in silence, while the other yearns for communication. Eventually, the side-craving interaction takes control. This transition often leads to feelings of shame and embarrassment, causing them to behave as if nothing happened. For instance, after weeks of no communication, they might casually reach out with a message like, "Hey, how are you doing?" They act as though there was no breach in communication because confronting the shame of their actions is too difficult. I hope this explanation brings clarity to the situation. If you're currently on the receiving end of the silent treatment from a narcissist, try to find solace in the silence. Engage in activities that bring you peace, perhaps read a book, write in a journal, or focus on your work or studies. Remember, you control your destiny. Stay tuned for more insights and advice on handling narcissistic behavior. If you find this helpful, feel free to like and subscribe for more content. Until next time, take care and find peace within yourself.